Are you guys ready for this? Are you guys ready? Okay, this is a much anticipated interview. I've been very much looking forward to this one, okay? This is an interview with a great guy. He is a streamer. He is a mod developer. And he is on the Applied Energistics team, okay? It might help if I have the questions up on my screen, right, babe? Yeah, it might help if I have the questions on. INTERV interview. Okay. Can you tell me where they're... Okay, here it is. No. Yeah, give me a link on TeamSpeak, please. Thank you. That's the only thing I forgot to open today. It's the only thing I forgot to open today. All right. Are we guys ready for this? Are you guys ready for the mod interview? Huh? Are we ready to do this thing? Here we go. Let's go ahead and bring Fireball up here and see what this dude has to say. Oh, one more thing. Hold on. Let's stop that. All right.
User was moved to your channel.
Hola, ¿cómo está? Muy bien. ¿Y tú?
Hello.
Hello, sir. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I am peachy. How was your stream, sir?
Oh, it's good.
Good? What kind of fun stuff did you do on your stream?
I was playing the Regrowth mod pack.
Regrowth mod pack. What's kind of like the theme of regrowth?
You're in a wastelands type environment, and there's no ores in the ground, so you got to grow everything, and it's all about agricraft and growing everything.
Oh, okay. That sounds cool. So does it have things like magic crops in it and Pam's Harvest Craft and stuff?
No Pam's Harvest Craft, but it has magic crops, and in order to even use the magic crops, it has to be done with like little stick things from agricraft.
Oh, okay, cool. Awesome. Sounds like fun. Well, who am I talking to? Who are you? Why are you in my channel?
I don't know. You dragged me in.
I know I did, didn't I?
No, I'm Fireball. Mod developer for Minecraft. Just started doing Twitch streaming about 8 months ago. And I'm with FTB as well, and that's pretty much...
FTB, I've never heard of that. What's FTB?
I don't know. So, if you get rid of the T, though, it's Fireball. It's actually Fireball.
I've heard of the F, though. Is that what you're saying?
Huh?
Yeah, I've heard of the F. Is that what you're saying? Is in Fireball?
Well, when I stream with an FTB shirt on, since the T is green, the T goes away, so it just says FB.
Oh, it just says FB. Oh, for Fireball. I get it now.
Yeah.
I never noticed that. I have two of those FTB shirts, and I can't even fit them around my hand because they're both like larges, and I'm like a 4X, you know.
Oh.
So I just it's a pain in the neck. So let's go ahead and get into this then. So the very first question of the night is always, what is your favorite pie, sir?
I would say probably anything that has chocolate in it, but like a peanut butter chocolate pie would be great.
Oh, yeah, that sounds good. Shad's favorite is peanut butter. She loves peanut butter. So, yes, I can definitely identify with that. She puts peanut butter on everything. If she could get away with put peanut butter on lasagna, she'd probably do it. And I know that's kind of gross, isn't it? All right, so peanut butter, is there any tie to the fact that you like peanut butters? Is like, do you grow up in an area where peanuts are prevalent, or is it just something since a kid you just liked peanut butter?
I don't know if peanuts were, big in my area or not. I mean, I'm from California, but
oh, okay, yeah.
no, I don't know. I've always liked peanut butter. Like Reese's is probably anything from Reese's is definitely
yes. Oh yeah. I think that's why I have a spare tire around my midsection, is probably because of that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? What planet are you from? What dialects do you speak, and what species and stuff, and all that kind of stuff?
Let's see. I'm from California. That's where I grew up. I ended up moving to New York about 11 years ago, mainly for work.
And what
So,
kind
yeah,
of work is that?
I'm an IT manager, so I do a lot of IT stuff. IT brought me out here. Actually, it was friends that brought me out here. But
Okay.
it was, mainly I've stayed because of the work, I guess.
Okay, and that seems to kind of be a common theme here with there's a lot of IT developers and IT people involved in either Twitch or mod developing and stuff like that. It seems to be kind of a common theme. Would you agree?
But I mean, the as far as like my background and stuff. I mean, I have a heavy background in IT. I'm all self-taught for coding. I used to do all .NET up until maybe about 3 years ago when I learned Java actually for Minecraft. I started off with Bucket, and Bucket was great. Made Bucket plugins, and then it got to the point where it was just like, oh, it'd be so much nicer if I could just do this. And so I ended up going to the Forge. Ended up moving over to Forge, like Forge mods, and started off doing private stuff, and then I always thought, because being an amateur coder, that I don't want to release this out to the public because then people will laugh at me because it's not good or things like that. But I finally got to the point where I was like, I don't care if people laugh at my code. And the first public mod I ever released was AE lights for the original version of AE, where I added just 16 light blocks that emitted just like glowstone, but it ran off power.
Ran out power, and you could probably did it have switches and stuff like that, or
no, it had upgrades, but none of them. I never built any way to turn them on or off. I mean, redstone signal will turn them on and off.
right. So you're a self-taught coder. My question to you is this: what do you say to those people that one of my problems is that I always go to try to teach myself something like that, and the example that I have to go by has absolutely zero relevance to anything that I'm working on. How do you make that leap? How do you make the leap to actually learning how to code? Is that like an in-depth question, or?
Well, learning to code is like learning a foreign language, in my opinion. I mean, it's not a spoken language, but it might as well be a foreign language. For me, I started off young. I remember programming on my dad's Tandy 1000. See if anyone knows what those are, but five and a quarter floppy disk with BASIC on it and a book, and that was my first coding experience. And that was when I was 6. Since then, it's gone from BASIC to C to C++ to C#, and then now to Java. But it's always been, for me at least, if you're not making something like a Minecraft mod, there's always tons of documentation online. Back in the day before the internet, I would have to use books.
Right.
What
are those? What's a book?
Yeah, I know.
What's a book?
And before the internet existed like that, there didn't used to be a Google when I was a kid. I couldn't just go online and Google something. I'd have to go to a library and get a book on coding or things like that, or find people who knew. But nowadays, it's incredibly easy, I think, to find tutorials and stuff for people who want to learn. The biggest thing was Minecraft modding. With Bucket was really easy. There was tons of tutorials, and the code with Bucket never changes because it's behind an API layer. So I still have Bucket plugins that are for like Minecraft 1.2 that still work just fine.
Oh, wow.
Because that API layer still makes those things work. But when I first came to Forge modding, there was no documentation, no examples. Hardly anybody's mod was open source. It made learning a really hard thing. Plus, there wasn't like anyone to talk to about it. It wasn't like, because if you go and like ask a question in certain channels on IRC, you might get shunned for your questions. Like, how do you not know this?
Yes. Yeah.
Luckily, though, now I can say since about version 1.6 of Minecraft, you got a lot of good people out there that have made tutorials. I know Pahamar started Let's Mod Reboot. I can't think of everyone, but there's like Wuppies. I know there's a couple people on Forgecraft that have tutorials now. And almost every mod is open source. Apply Logistics is open source. almost all the big mods now, including some of thermal expansion, is open source. So if you're like, hey, how did they do that? You can just dig into the code. And for me, that's how I learn. I dig into the code and
Figure out
I'm
how
able
they did
to,
it and
pull
apply
it
that
out
to
and
yourself.
go,
Yeah.
oh, okay, that makes sense.
All right, so what do you like doing outside of computers, outside of gaming, outside of work? What are some of your interests outside?
Sleeping?
Amen, brother. Amen, brother. I'm right there with you, man.
Summertime, I do try to not sit at my computer all night long. It's incredibly harder now that I stream, and it's basically from work to home to stream. And on the days that I'm not streaming, I'm working on projects for like FTV. But summertime, I do like to golf. Being that I live in New York, like 8 months out of the year are crappy weather and you can't golf. So, I used to love to be outdoors, but unfortunately, the route I've chosen with my life apparently has led me to sit at my computer all day.
I wouldn't know anything about that, my friend.
Yeah.
We have to force ourselves to go out and go for a walk and get out. And I actually have a kind of a ritual before I start streaming. I always walk outside and breathe fresh air and just get outside a little bit. And then also I've been trying to get me and Shaddis Nord to get out and just go and do something. So it is, I definitely feel with you, right there with you. It's our jobs are at our desks, and that's where we're tied to, right?
Yeah. But I can say, because of work and what I do at work, I mean, a couple of years ago, I used to have a really elaborate home network, servers and stuff at home. Now it's a router and a computer.
A router and a computer.
Nothing fancy. Up until about a few months ago, I still was using a Cisco router at home, like an actual full-blown Cisco integrated service router. But I was just like, I'm tired of managing this. Went to Walmart and bought not Walmart, sorry, I went to the Apple store and bought an Apple Airport Extreme router. And I'm like, they're done. I don't have to manage this. It just works. And life is easier with that. I don't want to come home and do the same stuff I'm doing at work, which is probably why I can code, because I don't code at work.
Right.
So coding at home is, it's not like I just did this all day, now I'm coming home to code.
Right. We, if you haven't done it yet, I use 2 computers to cast, and being able to reboot the gaming computer independent of the cast is very nice. And also having everything, the casting and everything like that, moved off of my gaming computer actually is nice too. So you said you only had one, but have you ever looked into that?
Yeah, actually, I was. Because when I'm not streaming, my FPS in game is in the hundreds to like 300s, depending on where I'm at, what's going on with tile entities around me. But when I'm streaming, I'm getting like 40, and I have a really halfway decent computer. I mean, I just bought this computer maybe about 9 months ago, and at the beginning of my streaming career, and it was pretty expensive. And I went with all the high-end stuff that was out at the time, high-end video card, high-end motherboard. I'm running, I think, 32 gigs of RAM, solid-state caching on my 3 terabyte hard drive. Mm-hmm. I mean, I went with as best stuff that I could, because with Minecraft, it's hard to get a good FPS. And then when I go to stream, it's like, oh, great, 40 FPS. Right. So I've actually looked into it a lot, but I would probably want to ask you questions, because I don't want my start bar to be visible, and I want to capture the monitor and make sure that I'm capturing stuff right. But I have thought about getting a second computer just dedicated for streaming, and probably get something. I was looking at like a Dell that's just like touchscreen. Mm-hmm. I could just touch the screen, start streaming, and just have it.
That would be cool. That would be cool. Yeah.
I wouldn't need a monitor or anything on it, or a keyboard and mouse on it.
I'm running right now. I could do it with 3, but I'm actually running 4 monitors right now, and it's extremely handy. But yeah, if you want me to send you in the right direction for the things you need to do to, because you got sound, I've got the sound routed different ways and stuff, and how to capture the sound correctly. And my main game computer is actually the desktop is not the monitor I'm facing. It's actually the desktop is the monitor to my right. So I play the games on the one where my start bar isn't. So I don't have that problem. But there are ways to make it so your start bar doesn't show up. But yeah, just you know how to get a hold of me. I'm more than happy to point you in the right direction.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to move on to how did you become responsible, or how did you become part of the Applied Energistics team? Well, how did that come about?
All right. Well, when I got invited to join Forgecraft, I was on Forgecraft for about maybe a month. I had been heavily working on the AE2 tech add-on that I had been making. And Algorithm sent me a question one day, and he was like, hey, how would you feel about giving me a hand with, fixing bugs and stuff? It's becoming a lot of work to maintain this lately. And I'm like, sure, no problem. Just let me know what you want to do. So about 2 weeks go by, didn't hear anything from Algorithm. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he just messages everybody. He's like, yeah, I'm out.
Oh,
And
yeah.
And he's like, here's all the new people I put in charge of AE. And I'm like, oh, okay.
And then, boom, there you are, huh?
Yeah, so I spent the next, month just learning everything about AE that I could. But, yeah, it was really unexpected about, Algorithm has always been a private guy. So, there wasn't, any signs about it. Like, he wasn't talking in our Forgecraft private channel about, I'm getting tired, I'm probably going to move on. It was just sudden, out of the blue, boom, here it is.
Gotcha. Now, I'm assuming you had used Applied Energistics before you went on the team, right?
Oh, yeah. I've used Applied Energistics became my favorite mod as soon as it came out, basically, with original AE.
Oh, yeah. It's like, it is a game changer. 100% a
Yeah.
game changer, especially for those of us that love the automation and the ability to store and stuff like that. It is a huge game changer. So you had mentioned about Forgecraft, and I think that one thing a lot of people want to know, and I've kind of guessed how you do it, but how do you get into Forgecraft? Do you have to have you have to be a coder to be on Forgecraft? What is the way to get into Forgecraft, or is that top secret and you have to kill me?
No, I can tell you, because people ask me that all the time too, and it's not. It has nothing to do with being a coder. I mean, some of the people that just got added to Forgecraft just recently, T Fox is one of them. T Fox is just one of the core people from FTB. He's not a coder. Mm-hmm. He's not a YouTuber. He's not a streamer. If anyone actually knows who T Fox is, in your chat, I would be surprised, because he made mod packs back in the day, but when he moved roles to managing FTB, he's now one of the behind the scenes. One of the behind the scenes guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, he makes sure that packs get updated, like the Direwolf pack, and
right.
Those are the types of things, and it's pretty much a faceless, nameless job. And basically, the way that you get on Forgecraft, and all the people that are on Forgecraft are all friends with Pahamar.
Okay.
We've all known Pahamar for some amount of time, and people, So most of the people think that it's only the developers, or if I make this really good mod, I'll get on Forgecraft. And the advice that I tell people is that making a mod strictly to get on Forgecraft is a horrible idea, because as soon as you get on Forgecraft, if it does ever happen, that mod is probably never going to be worked on again. You're going to be like, well, I got my goal is accomplished, now I'm done. The thing that people also forget about Forgecraft is, it's cool to play with Direwolf, and it's cool to play with, all the other people, and be able to talk to, people from Mojang and people like Lex and stuff like that in a totally different environment. But remember, Forgecraft is just a development server, is basically what it's supposed to be. It's a test server, it's laggy, it's buggy, it's usually crashing all the time. There's times where it's down on streams, and it's not the best private server to be part of, other than the fact of the community, and that's the secret of Forgecraft, is basically all the people who are in the community.
It's the community.
Pahamar doesn't have a public list anywhere, but
right, okay.
But how I got on, though, is I was at work one day, and I use an IRC client called IRC Cloud, and
okay.
basically I got a notification that someone PM'd me, and I looked, and it was Pahamar, who said, "Hope you don't mind the PM, but just wanted to let you know that if you want, I have an invitation to Forgecraft for you." Just out of the blue. And
Nice.
I was like, my
It's like-
response, I said, my response, I thought he was joking, because I knew
I'm not worthy.
you know, and I didn't really have any big mods out, because that's what I thought too. My perception was that, you know, everyone on Forgecraft is big time mod developers, and I'm like,
Right.
you know, I'm like, Pahamar is just messing with me, because I had actually been running or helping him on his sub server, like restarting it and stuff like that. So that's how I knew Pahamar. But I'm like, oh, there's no way that he's serious about that. He's like just pulling my leg or something. So I said something, you know, like that, and I was like, oh wow, I was like, I don't know what to say other than thanks or something like that. And he's like, so what's your answer? And I'm like, yeah. So,
Right.
you know, he added me, and you know, it was unreal. It really was. I had never expected it, and it was quite a surprise. But you know, and so like I said though, there's no secret way. I mean, it's probably the same way of getting Twitter verified. I mean, it just happens. You know,
Right.
There's no set in stone way to get on Forgecraft. It just happens if it happens.
So one thing we haven't mentioned is that we definitely talked about this, and that you're part of the AE2 team that supports AE2 and currently upkeeps it. Who are the other members? Where are they from, and what planet are they from, and stuff? Why don't we give a shout out to them also?
Sure. All right. So the AE team right now is made up of the people who have access to the right on the repository, so to actually make updates directly to it, is Season, who is in the Pacific time zone somewhere.
You said Seattle or something like it, right?
Yeah, I think he said he was in Seattle. I forget exactly where. And then the other two are you, and that's spelled Yueh, and That's Itch. And That's Itch and Season have been around in the AE community for some time. And I know you is a friend of That's Itch, and both That's Itch and you are in Germany. So it kind of gives them two the time to be able to code together in their time zone.
Uh-huh.
And Season is around with my time zone. I can say that probably out of all the four of them, or all four of us, I'm probably the one that hasn't done the most work.
Jeez.
So. Mainly for a lot of reasons. There's most of it's just bug fixes at this time. I had been working on trying to move it and upgrade it and add features to it, but so far we haven't done anything other than just maintain it. Now, the other part of it too is it's not just us four who can update AE, and there's I haven't checked the number in a while, but since it's an open source mod, and one of the things I like about open source stuff is that the community is also able to add features. I don't know if anyone knows now that the Inscriber has upgrade slots in it. 3 upgrade slots in the Inscriber where you can put acceleration cards.
Oh, gimme.
Yeah, that was one of the first things added when the mod became open source. That wasn't added by any of us. That was added by somebody in the community.
Okay, so how do you maintain the level of quality that you need when you just let, no offense, every Joe Blow walk in there and say, "Here, I'm going to add some code to this." How does stuff get reviewed? How does that work?
Well, I have a build server that builds all the source code. So every time somebody, so if you wanted to make let's say you wanted to make a change to apply to logistics, you would do what they call fork the repository. So basically, it makes a copy of that repository onto your account where you can modify the code.
Okay.
So you go in, you make your modifications, and you say what you did. And then what you do is you submit a pull request back to us, and you say, hey, I want to take my code and merge it into your code. Now, it shows us in that request all the code that was changed. Mm-hmm. So we can easily go in and make sure that you didn't add something malicious. It shows us what was removed and what was added line by line.
Okay.
And they call that the differential. So it shows us the differential between the current code base and your code base. Mm-hmm. And then we also have my build server, which builds every single pull request. So if we need to go and test it. So if you say, hey, I did this change that fixes this one problem, and you can't just look at your code and we're like, well, I don't know if that actually fixes it or not. My build server will build every single one of those pull requests, and we just download it, throw it in the instance, and launch Minecraft, and we go and see if it actually fixed it or not.
Nice. Absolutely. That is so cool that, that's today's technology. I mean, that's how you work together from all over the world to do something. It's incredible. I love technology.
Yep.
All right. So I think we kind of covered this a little bit, but how did you meet Algorithm?
Probably the first time I met Algorithm was I decided I wanted to start making a mod. And the backstory, maybe this will help understand. I've always been a big fan of making light in Minecraft cost something. Like, you can just run around your base and throw torches around, and I feel that's kind of cheaty. The torches don't burn out. And so there's not many mods that offer lights that run off electricity. I mean, the two big ones out there right now that I can think of is AE2 has an illuminator panel, and Ender.io has a powered light. You might have remembered my Forgecraft 2 series, the first one I did, the Deep Space Station. Everything in there, all the lights were powered. There wasn't any torches or anything that gave off light that didn't require power. And because I like it if, like, you have a major problem, you lose a generator or your reactor blows up, that now it's dark, now you have a problem, and kind of like real life. And so there was the problem with IC2's light is that you give it a little bit of power. Oh, same with Ender.io, but you give it a little bit of power and it will literally last forever. Like, it has an internal buffer of a ton of juice, and even Ender.io's one, I actually had asked Crazy Pants. I said, hey, your wireless charger, holds a ridiculous amount of power. Can you nerf it, please? And he's like, yeah, sure. So they nerfed that because it held like 100,000 RF. And,
right, yeah.
You would stop providing with power, but using that wireless charger on the lights would last for forever. So my first mod that I made publicly was lights that ran off the Applied Energistics network, and each light would draw 1 AE per tick. And so if you use those in your building, because this is back with the old AE where you just run one cable around
one cable right through the middle of your base and say, go. Yeah.
Done. So I would run AE cables throughout my entire house and hook up lights to them. And, it would use power. If the AE system went offline, then the lights would go out. And if the lights go out, then you have mob spawning, and you have those types of real life problems to deal with. And so that was the first mod I made. Well, in making that mod, I had never worked with Applied Energistics' API before, and like most things in modded Minecraft, documentation doesn't exist.
Right.
There was no examples. There was no other mods for me to look at how it works. So I met Algorithm in his Applied Energistics channel on IRC. I was still kind of noobish at coding, and I didn't feel like looking like an idiot in the channel, so I directly messaged him with a PM. And we talked in PM for, a bunch. I asked him a whole bunch of questions, and he was actually pretty polite about it, because most people, get upset if you private message them, especially if you have a channel. You're just ask in the channel, somebody will help you. But I didn't want everyone to think I was an idiot asking these questions that were probably, in some people's opinions, stupid questions. And so Algorithm and I talked a lot. And then when I started making the AE2 tech add-on after AE2 came out, I was talking with him because he wanted to be involved with the balance of things to make sure that because I can tell you, Algorithm really loves this mod. Like, every recipe, everything has a reason, behind it. It's all about fluix, which is the study of energy and matter, something with energy and matter. And
you can definitely tell that he has put love into that mod. Okay, you can definitely tell by how well it is, and you can tell that it is so well loved and put together, and you can just tell that.
Yeah, so he would be like, oh, that recipe that you have that does this, well, you should use this instead, because this is what this means if you use that. And so we would communicate on that as well all the time. So he was always around back when he was developing the mod. Like, he was always in the IRC channel. And
To bring this to the forefront, you are the man, though, that is responsible for channels. Am I correct?
For the panels?
Channels.
Oh, channels. All right, no, not me personally. That algorithm added the channels.
Okay.
Part of the problem between Applied Energy 6 and Applied Energy 2 was algorithm wanted the way to balance Applied Energy 6. In the matter of speaking, from all the other mods that exist, probably the closest thing to Applied Energy 6 would be logistics pipes, I would say.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree.
Now, with the logistics pipes, it's still kind of the same thing. You have pipes everywhere, which are like the cables. Mm-hmm. You can put junctions on there, everywhere there's a junction, and those junctions allow the items to route smartly. Now, you don't need junctions with Applied Logistics, but when it comes to storage, with logistics pipes, there is no magical black hole that the items go and sit in.
Right.
You have to have chests and barrels, and you actually have to have physical space for those items. Now, with Applied Logistics, all your items are being converted to energy and stored on a hard disk drive.
And yeah, that's you have to sit back and say, that's a little OP, right?
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, that is incredibly OP. I mean, that's like pretty much the definition of OP.
Right.
It's allowing you to store. Now, with the original Applied Logistics, there was no limitation to this. There was no channels. You could make the network as small or as big as you want. You could have just one cable that ran around and touched all your machines. And it was really easy to get into it. There was no having to go hunt down meteors and charge Certus. And the recipes were pretty easy. And it soon became, because of its power and its abilities, one of those mods that everybody used. And
right.
I know the algorithm was trying to come up with really, really hard ways to come up with ways to make Applied Logistics more of a late game mod.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people joke because, like, on the last Forgecraft reset with Iguana tweaks, so I had to level up my tools. I was able to have a full AE system in 4 hours.
Oh, good God.
Which is pretty,
okay.
is a pretty good feat. I mean, it wasn't my intent to do that, but then I heard Tog was stealing all the presses, so I was like, all right, I'll do this. And it took me 4 hours, but I had a fully functional AE system. Nice. You're not supposed to be able to do that.
Right. Okay.
It's designed to be a late game thing. And I think one of the things that people don't like is that, there's a change. They don't like the channels. It's something new. And the channels make a lot of sense, to me at least. The way I try to explain it to others or think of it myself is it's like a SCSI bus in the old SCSI computers. That cable can only hold so many channels worth of data. In this case, it's 8 channels. There's ways to get around that by using P2Ps, and in all honesty, one controller is pretty much all you need. I know Soren is doing a 1ME controller challenge type thing, but there's no reason that the channel system doesn't work. And I try to go to those extremes by, automating my entire base with AE and showing, hey, look, I'm still running one cable around my base.
Right.
I'm just using P2P tunnels on it. And it is completely possible. And, a lot of people are like, oh, okay, now that I understand it more, it makes sense. There's not a lot of good tutorials. I know Dyer has a Spotlight out there, but I don't think it goes over the P2P stuff because that wasn't, or the... I don't know, it doesn't go over the auto crafting. That's what it is.
I have one
go over the P2Ps.
I have one planned. Our channels one should be coming out next week, and then I have one planned on that exact subject here, probably within at least 2 weeks or so. I haven't actually filmed it, but it is planned to get it out there, so there's at least something out there on P2P, because I love the P2P buses and stuff. And the thing is I totally didn't want this interview to be anything about feature requests in any which way, shape, or form. But you got to agree with me, on P2P buses, there's got to be a way that you can match them. In other words,
yes.
You know what, yeah, you know what I mean, right?
I do know exactly what you mean, and I've thought about it, and I've talked with the other devs about it. The thing that's a pain about it is, like, yeah, exactly. I know there's more channels on one of these P2P buses here, but I don't know which one it is. So I'm just going to place down another one. And
exactly.
Or if I break one, it's like, which one was it paired to?
Exactly.
And if you name it, it doesn't keep its name. Yeah, it's something that's been talked about, and how are we going to make it work? And I think
Simple
the idea
code.
I wanted to do was like how turtles are. Like when you're looking at them, it shows the name like above it.
Yeah.
But it's not It's not as simple as you would think to make that type of a name appear.
I would do something just like a simple color code where you could have like a chain of 3 colors that could be at the top of the bus itself or around the edge of the bus. And then you could just program it to what color code it was. And that's how you could, instead of, as much as I love the memory card reader, you could just program it to color code blue 1, and that one's blue 1. And then you just have those right on the edge of the P2P bus where it just shows blue 1. And then you could use all the colors in Minecraft, and that could give you pretty much an unlimited number of different channels.
Yeah. The part of the memory card, though, too, is you have to have a master and a slave. There's a master-slave network in a relationship,
Right.
So it would be harder to figure out which one is the master and which ones are the slave.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, along with the channels thing, I think that the other big problem that people had with AE2 and the change is the water. Having to put the Fluix crystals in the water, and it seems cumbersome and things like that. Who came up with that, and what was the reasoning? What's the background behind the water?
It all goes back to the whole thing about it being overpowered. It's as many. He wanted manual steps. The algorithm wanted to have manual steps to, that's why you can automate it, but it's meant to be harder to automate.
Right? Yeah.
Plus, a lot of the stuff too is that a lot of mods are moving away from the whole block type thing. You go up to a block, you right click on it, and you do your business on it, and then you walk away. By actually going out and dropping the stuff into the water, I mean, it's a different way to go about it as well.
Mm-hmm. And you're talking about I think Botania is like that. Thaumcraft has that where you have to drop things into the stuff. You're talking about those kind of stuff. I always found I personally always found that I call it cumbersome only because I have a terribly horrendously bad memory, and I'm always having to go back to NEI. What was I doing? Come back to what I was doing. Oh, my inventory's full. Oh, I gotta go back to this, back to that. Oh, I got magnet mode on. I gotta turn off my magnet. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. So
now, the good news is that Vasky did add into Botania that the magnet will no longer pick up the pure the seeds. Basically,
nice.
so that it won't pick up anymore until it's fully grown. So that was a nice thing that Vasky did for us.
All right. The next question is, what sort of, and this is kind of, I mean, most of us know, could name 20 of these off at the top of our head. What are some mods that you suggest be used in conjunction with Applied Energistics 2?
All right. Well, Applied Energistics will run on its own. In vanilla Minecraft, basically, that could be the only mod that's in there, and it would work just fine. However, it would be a pretty boring experience to just automate vanilla stuff. So,
right.
Basically, I honestly can't think of a mod out there that Applied Energistics... Well, I shouldn't say that because, I mean, there's just tool mods and stuff. But Applied Energistics works nicely with any of the major mods. It works great with Railcraft. It works great with Thermal Expansion. It works great with Steve's Factory Manager. It works with IC2. It works with Buildcraft. It works with pretty much any of the mods that you're going to find in any mod pack. I was showing off recently Botania with AE2 automation, Thaumcraft. I know there's a nice add-on called Thaumic Energistics, but we didn't have that on Forgecraft. So I showed off alternative ways to automate it with Steve's Factory Manager and AE2. One of the things that might be coming in, if I can ever get a moment to help the mod author and write some code for him, the author of Steve's add-ons that adds in extra things into Steve's Factory Manager is looking to add a block that will let you communicate directly with AE in Steve's Factory Manager, which will be awesome. But
I have not. People are starting to mention Steve's Factory Manager more, and I need to look into it more to see what it's all about. To me, I look at it and say, well, I can manage all my factories with Applied Energistics. Why do I need another mod to manage my factories, type of thing? So, this isn't. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, Steve's Factory Manager is a mod that basically uses flowcharts to do things. It can break blocks, it can place blocks, it can interact with things, it can push items in, it can take items out.
Okay.
And it actually was a Mod Jam 3 mod. So it was one of those mods that was made in 96 hours. And it's really overwhelming the first time you look at it. I remember C's Factory Manager had been around for a very long time, and I've just never I never wanted to learn it because I'd go and look at like programs that like Diarmate and be like, whoa, I don't understand any of this. And
Right. Okay.
it really only took me about a day to learn it, and I was like, whoa. And I've used Steve's Factory Manager probably on every build I've ever made
Nice.
after that. I mean, and some of the reasons why you might want to use Steve's Factory Manager would be, let's use it for this is one of the main reasons why I actually learned it was, with Ender.io you have the alloy furnace that makes alloys.
Right.
But the alloy furnace is slow. Even if you put the octadic capacitor
Oh
in
yeah.
it,
It's still slow. Yeah.
So I wanted to load balance them. So I wanted to have like 16 of these alloy furnaces and just load balance. Now the problem is that no matter which pipe you use, it's not going to load balance correctly. Because there's some recipes that use ender pearls with things. So ender pearls only stack to 16.
Right.
And other things will stack to 64. So it'll start, it won't load balance everything correctly. And so Steve's Factory Manager basically have AE dump everything into a chest. Steve's Factory Manager looks at that chest and goes, oh, okay, here's all the things I have. And it starts putting them into the machines and goes, oh, you have
Nice.
stuff in you? Okay, I won't put anything else into you. So I can go and request like a stack of Enderium, for example, and have that stack of Enderium in just a few minutes because it load balances everything evenly. And so it's slow, but it's slow times 16.
Right. Yeah. It's slow. Got it. Okay. I was going to ask about, but it's a different mod, and I'm gonna skip that question. Okay, so we've kind of covered this already. So if you want to do just real quick, what are some of the other mods that you've created, and can you just give us a brief synopsis, real quick?
Sure. So we already touched on the AE lights one. It's not being maintained anymore because AE now has native lights in it, so there was really no point in adding an add-on that added lights in the AE. But that's the first one. The second one is the AE2 tech add-on. That one adds machines. The idea behind that was to make machines similar to the functions of thermal expansion, but instead of having to put an ME interface and export buses and things like that, it would be an all-in-one machine. So a furnace that directly communicated with AE, got its power to run from AE, and you could put patterns and stuff right into like the furnaces and the pulverizer and things along those lines. Probably the other mod that people have heard of and seen is what I call Twitch Notifier or T Notifier. Not to be confused with the website. That's not me. I wrote a mod that basically adds in-game fireworks. I kind of nicknamed it my heart attack mod because every time it goes off, it usually makes me jump and almost gives me a heart attack.
I know what you're talking about. Yes, we used to have a creeper explosion as the tip sound. When people tipped, it would just be a creeper explosion out of nowhere, and there'd be many times when I'd be going through the dark and a creeper that would go off, and I would think that it's a creeper in the freaking thing.
And there's just a couple small other utility mods. I made a world thing for actually it's for Minecrafting Dad. He was putting together that mod pack that he made and Run Dig Hide, and you had to go in and you had to choose a default world type. And there's no way to do that. So I'm like, oh, I could write a mod that does that. So I made a mod that it basically just it chooses the default options that you would need for a world type.
Nice. Okay,
and then everything else is just FTB stuff.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and open things up to the chat and see if the chat has anything to ask us. Yeah, let's see if let's wait for that 30 second delay and see what chat has to say. All right, guys, let's go ahead and pop out our questions for Fireball, one of the mod developers of Applied Energistics 2. Let's go ahead and pop this out. I want to hear what your questions are, And of course, nothing stupid. Okay. Okay. So Super Jader first asks simply, what features would you like to add to AE2 if you had the time and patience?
I would like to add, well, the machines into AE2. I think it'd be really nice if AE had its own machines to do things. I know that there's a lot of mods to add machines, but it'd be nice to have that, but in like an AE type style. Also, I want to add fluids natively, so like what Extra Cells does.
Okay. Okay. And also the matching of the P2P buses. We can't forget that. Right?
Yes. Definitely need to figure that out.
Will you add a wireless crafting terminal?
Most likely, yes.
Most likely, yes. That's a good one right there. We're going to put thumbs up on that one. Okay. Do you play any other games besides Minecraft?
I have on occasion played Starbound, and on occasion, like once in a blue moon. I did try out that City Skylines when it first came out. I went and bought that. But no, the answer, I would say, the general answer is no. Believe it or not, I'm not really much of a gamer. Minecraft is weird to me because I don't look at it as a game. It's more like a development type thing.
Yeah. Okay. What is your favorite feature of AE2?
I would say the channels. The channels bring... It makes you think about it. It's no longer just lay down cable. It requires you to plan your builds. It requires you to plan your base. And it requires you to think about things into the future to go, well, if I do this way, I might have a problem down the road.
So did you get a chance to, you were in the channel the other morning, did you get a chance to see what I've got set up?
I don't know. I saw some of your AE stuff. I saw your controller.
Oh, okay. The one that my wife vein mined?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, she vein mined the whole core out of my AE system. Everything in the core. Yes, it was bad. It was a bad day. What are future ideas for plans for AE2 or possibly AE3? And that kind of leads into one we've already asked, but yeah.
Well, the short story is that we have talked a lot about adding new features into AE, but we're not sure on the whole 1.8 thing. Needless to say, because there's not a lot of mods there's not a lot of bigger mods that are moving to 1.8 because there's a lot of work for not a lot gained. So, as far as what happens to AE, it still might move to 1.8. I don't know for sure, but I know that the plan is once it moves to the next version, that's when new features will be added, because you don't want to have to backport. You don't want to have to maintain two versions of the mod. I've suggested calling anything new AE3, but it might still be AE2. So the plans would be, though, is once the mod is updated to whatever the next version of Minecraft is, either 1.8 or 1.9, that's when a lot of these ideas will probably come into play, like adding machines and adding fluids directly into AE.
Let's see here. It's there's like a zillion questions and finding one without it scrolling here. Okay. Do you have any plans for any mods yourself? Any new mods or anything yourself?
Yeah, I've actually been waiting for another mod jam, believe it or not, because I have a really good idea for mod jam.
Nice.
So I've been kind of like holding off on coding anything or coding that one for mod jam because I think it'd be a good winner. But I'm coding mods all the time. Like I'm working on right now a project for FTB for one of their new maps. It's one of those. It's a big mod. It's managing the entire quest system. But it's one of those things that nobody will ever see. It's not something that, people will download and use in their own packs. But I don't know. As far as making another thing, I've torn apart AE2 Tech add-on and actually started on a new one called Industrialized Energistics.
Okay.
Because it sounded better than AE2 Tech add-on.
Right. Okay. Right.
But it's kind of been put on the back burner for other projects. it's hard to stream and code and then do personal coding all, and get things done. And I'd hate to make something like industrialized energistics and then like have to, not be able to maintain it or give it the attention it needs because of other projects. So I've kind of been holding off on making anything big because of that.
Gotcha. Okay. Will quantum network bridges work between servers? I'm going to say no.
Yeah, no.
No.
That would be, I mean, it's not that it's impossible, but
right.
It would be hard.
Right. So there's a lot of questions about integration of other mods. How do you decide what mod you're going to integrate into AE2 so that there's seamless functionality between the two, and how do you decide which ones maybe don't?
Well, AE only actually has very limited interactions with other mods, because if that mod doesn't exist on your server, that might cause problems.
Right.
Long story short is that we don't always have to like directly support things, because most blocks and things that will accept items, our block can like push into them or they can retrieve from them. So we don't actually have to go and support that mod directly. Basically, the only things that we support directly is thermal expansion, so we can use the wrench from thermal expansion. Buildcraft, so we can use their wrench. IC2, so we can use their wrench. you
got a thing with wrenches. I see where this is going. It's all about the wrenches, isn't it?
Well, it's so that way if you have an IC2 wrench, you can use it on an AE cable and it breaks. It's that compatibility that people like.
Right.
Because there is no like universal wrench code. If you find a mod that will let you use a different person's wrench on it, it's because they coded it for it.
Right. Okay.
It's, as far as AE itself goes, it's almost better to say we're not going to directly support. Like Thumbcraft is a great example. There's a mod that's made called Thaumic Energistics, which integrates Thumbcraft in AE like beautifully. I love it. It's a great mod, but it also trivializes Thumbcraft at the same time.
Right.
It makes things that are supposed to be hard easy. Asnor has put a lot of time and effort into making it so you can't automate Thumbcraft that easily. It's not an easy thing to do.
Right.
So if we were to say make Thaumic Energistics into Applied Energistics, now you have this mod that's been changed because of our mod.
Which is kind of like the Greg Tech effect.
Yeah. And we're not trying to do the Greg Tech effect on things. We're trying to... If people want to make a mod that integrates it, like Thaumic Energistics, I'm all for it. I love seeing add-on mods, and there's actually a few. There's AE stuff, there's Extra Cells, and Thaumic Energistics. There's probably some other ones I don't even know about.
Right.
And that way, I think that's the better approach for automating, or not automating, but integrating. Like, so I see someone said something about Blood Magic. Somebody wrote an add-on mod that would integrate those two, because I don't know exactly what you would want to do per se in Blood Magic that you couldn't do without integration, I guess.
So one of the people was asking about, and I think it's like one of the other of the three big things, channels, water, and the auto crafting in AE2. Was the auto crafting changed specifically because of wanting to make it less overpowered mod, or that they're basically asking, is there any plans to make auto crafting back towards like it was in AE, or is it this way to stick?
Well, the way that auto crafting is now is actually a lot more powerful than it was in the original thing. But before, with the Mac, that you had the molecular assembler, in the original one, you just built a big multi-block, filled it with some CPUs, filled it with some of the other things that held patterns, and loaded it up with patterns, and you were good to go. The new way of the molecular assembler and using an ME interface really allows you to design the crafting that best handles the situation that you're trying to do. So if you want to be able to craft a lot of things, you could have one molecular assembler with 6 ME interfaces around it.
Right.
But if you want to be able to craft faster, you could have one ME interface around 6 molecular assemblers.
Right.
So it allows you to basically build the crafting the way that you want to craft. I usually go between a mix of the two. Like I'll build a tower. I built a tower this season that's got a checkerboard between molecular assemblers and ME interfaces, so it gives me the best of both worlds.
Right. I think that's kind of the standard build now, is that checkerboard square tower thing. And I think Sevidus did it. I've seen it on Soren's. Some of the people on my server did it. It seems to be kind of like a go-to type of thing. So the next thing is that we're starting to take bets, I believe, on when people believe Zycraft will ever be updated. Do you have any idea from Soren?
Zycraft?
Yes, that was supposed to be a joke, by the way. That's a joke.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that mod.
You're not okay. You're not familiar with that mod. Got it.
No, in all seriousness, I all right. He says he's working on it. I have a copy of it for 164 that runs. So, I mean, it had to have been worked on at least some bit to go from wherever the last version of Minecraft it was released to 164. But you know, probably I would say though that Soren is a lot in the same situation as myself. You know, he's a streamer. Yeah. He doesn't work a job, but you know, he's a student. So replace work with school, and you know the between the free time that you have. When I first started streaming, I had no idea that it would ever turn into what it's become, and B, I had no idea how much time it would take to do streaming. And I'm really glad, to be honest, I didn't say I was going to stream 7 days a week, because I don't know what I would do, because I would have like literally no time.
Right, and you're always prepping for your stream or doing something for your stream, and we've put YouTube into the mix, and it's like that. But we're going to go ahead and wrap this up, Fireball. It has been an awesome time having you on the channel, having you here to talk about AE2 and giving you a voice to the masses and stuff like that. And thank you so much for being here tonight.
Well, thank you for having me.
And no problem whatsoever. So I'm going to go ahead and move you out of the channel. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
You too.
That,
my friends, was Fireball, one of the mod devs for Applied Energistics. Right there, you guys. I hope you enjoyed that interview. It was a freaking... he knocked it out of the park. Did he not knock that out of the park? Why don't we all give Fireball a salute, you guys, and say thank you very much for Fireball. We'll give him a round of applause. I need an applause thing on here. For that awesome interview. Great information, good times, was awesome. Thank you, Fireball, for being here. You guys are awesome. So is everybody ready to do a switcheroony? We're going to head over to Minecraft now, and I am going to do, for the first time ever... Oh, I got to do the next one. What's the next interview, you guys? Do you guys want to know what the next interview is? Do you guys want to know what the next interview is? I don't think you guys want to know. I know that there's a delay.